So Section 1202 is this QSBS. It's referred to the qualifying small business stock, and it's a potential exclusion of $10 million or 10 times your basis in your original investment. And in order to qualify, you have to be a domestic C corporation. You have to have, it has to be a qualifying small business, which the definition is a little tricky because it's actually more on if you're not an excluded business, which is professionals, doctors, attorneys, lawyers, or financial services, or a consultant, which is a pretty gray area. Essentially, if the skill or reputation of a person is part of your business, you're excluded. So you have to be qualifying business, you have to have a domestic C Corp, and you have to have held the stock at original issue for 5 years. And if you meet all of the qualifying criteria and you're a qualifying investor, which is a non-corporate investor, an individual, a pass-through entity, or a trust, you can exclude $10 million of gain or 10 times your basis. So the business has to have been less than $50 million at issuance. So that being said, for a $50 million business, it could potentially have an exclusion of up to $500 million. So at original issue, your basis it will be whatever you purchased the stock for. So sometimes you get it for nothing. If you're part of the startup of the business, you'll just receive shares. Sometimes you would have purchased, you would have made a purchase. So if you're able to receive 10 times your basis and the business's gross value must be less than 50 million, kind of do the math that way, and that's why. But normally people have a very little basis at these startups. They're mostly startup businesses. That part of the incentive to get talent is to issue these stock options, and that's something actually that clients have been coming to us with lately. Is they receive these shares as options and they're trying to figure out when their holding period started, because when you have an option, the clock doesn't start. So there's a couple different types of options that are typical. You can either get an ISO or a RSU, restricted stock unit, which ISOs will actually, your holding period starts once you exercise. For a restricted stock unit, your holding period begins once you vest. And so one of the things that we typically see is that the holding period will be staggered because the vesting will be over a period of time. And so one of the things to analyze when investors are ready to sell these qualifying small business stock is how much of their stock has hit the 5-year mark.